Okay, because we didn't even know we had power until like a minute before we started. I never had a chance to check the microphone. Is that working okay?
Yeah, a little bit closer, maybe.
Much closer?
Hey, Mary Ann, I'll move the PowerPoint when you say.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Tom, can you see if you can get the tech man in here? Find somebody, the technician, so we can quiet down that hum. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I want to start by telling you, we've only been doing this for about a year. It was about a year ago that we became interested in refugee resettlement through Ann Corcoran's website, which I'm sure you are all paying attention to these days. And through her website, we started looking at the numbers for Michigan. And then we ran the numbers and looked at per capita for Michigan, and Michigan was, of the top 5 states, #1, because our population is a lot smaller than big states like California and Texas. And so we started digging deeper into the numbers. And through Ann, she put us in touch with a somewhat local researcher, a person that we've been dealing with, who is a true researcher. She likes to stay in the background, but she's done phenomenal work to help us. And I would say, based on what we've been able to put together in this past year, I don't think that there's probably any other state that has the kind of numbers that we have and has learned how to deal with it. And it's been tireless work by people like Gary and Dick to put all these things together in an educational format. So we've taken it out and road tested it with people in the community. And you've probably all seen the presentation. It's constantly updated, upgraded, improved. It's constantly made very accurate by the numbers. The numbers that speak for themselves, and they are precise. Now, because we've done this, we've developed a website for Secure Michigan, which is the initiative. The website, and I hope you've all had a chance to look at it, and we'll look at it in a little more detail here in a minute, but the website is the key to everything. It's the key to the organization. And that's what I'm going to give you tonight, is a little overview of what this organization is. Because if you knew how few of us there were, you'd be amazed for the amount of work that's been put together. It's a very small group of people. We want it to be larger. We want to include everybody in a way that we can work together. And I would say that the most important approach that we have is that we can be nimble. And the website is what's going to allow us to do that, because the website is going to be the clearinghouse. If you think of going to the website for information, it's going to be a two-way street. You're going to have good information all the time. We're also putting tools there. Do you want to do the next slide? Okay. So I want to tell you a little bit more about what Secure Michigan is. You've heard about that, but we're becoming very weary of hearing from our president and people in the administration that this is not who we are. When he complains that we're not embracing his schemes for redistribution of wealth and total transformation quite fast enough. He's complaining, and here we are probably the most generous people on the planet. We always step up in every natural disaster and help people. We are the ones that are more charitable than any other country. When the numbers are run, it's always the United States of America that's at the top. And we carry that on with how we receive refugees, because we get more refugees than all the rest of the Western countries that accept refugees totaled, and we get more than that. And of course, you know that many of the Middle Eastern countries don't take any refugees. Some do, but many don't. So Secure Michigan is this pocket of resistance. And we follow Ann, and I want to tell you a little bit about what a pocket of resistance is, because we didn't name ourselves. We were named by our opposition. The people like Welcoming Michigan, an astroturfed group that believes that their job is to put seedlings into the community, seedlings of refugees, and they want to nurture these seedlings and help them grow. So they don't want anybody disturbing the seedlings that are positioned, and that's what they see us as doing. Anybody who disagrees with what they're doing or asks questions about what they're doing is considered a resistor. So that's what we are. Yeah, because we have to ask questions because the information is not transparent. We're not provided with anything even when we ask. Our local government and the national government don't really think that as citizens and taxpayers, we are the ones that have a stake to have the information. And that's why we've had to file Freedom of Information requests to get information. Sometimes that's the only way we can get it. So you understand how this has been going for the past year. We're hobbled by all of these constraints, and the Freedom of Information Act has been one of our only friends as far as developing information about what has happened. And then unfortunately, we can't find out things ahead of time, we find out things after the fact. And that's only by going on government websites to get the information. So this is the problem that we have, and we need to do something about it to move forward. Education is very good, but it's not enough. People ask what they can do, but many people don't even ask. They learn about it, they're shocked with the numbers, but they don't know what to do and maybe think that it's hopeless. And I thought that some of the things that we heard tonight were pretty shocking, but they're important things for us to learn because we have to know our enemy to know what we can do about it. I truly agree with Jim with the idea that this is a problem that you deal with on the most local level first. So that's what our approach is. We do believe that it's important to be as local as possible. Do you want to do the next slide?
Whoops, I'm sorry.
Okay. So I mentioned that we're using the website for two-way communication. And Gary, if you want to pull up the website, then we can look at it online. I think a lot of you have seen this already because we've been rolling out different parts of a toolkit to help you when you go to your city council meetings or your most local government. It would be our goal for every local unit of government in Michigan to receive information about refugee resettlement from Secure Michigan. And that seems impossible, but it's really not. We can fan out and do that. Do you want to go to the tool part?
Right here?
Yeah. The Citizens Toolkit. Okay, so there you see different, I'm not going to go into detail now, you can look at this on your own, but these are different things that you can do, and it gives you samples of what to say if you go to your council meeting. You might have never done it before. This might be a new experience for you. This gives you some guidelines, some ideas about things. And one thing that, just to let you know, we want you to think about this as being a relationship that you will develop with your local elected officials that is going to be a consultative relationship. And it goes exactly along with what Jim was saying. John was saying. We don't want to go in there like gangbusters and tell them everything that they've done wrong. We want to educate them and let them see that we can be a resource to them, and it starts a relationship that can be developed. Don't think that the other side, Welcoming Michigan, has not developed relationships. They certainly have. And what I'm noticing now is some of the the councils in Oakland County, and I'll use Madison Heights as an example, they now have added a diversity council member to the council. They're only hearing one side of the story. They're not hearing what's going on with refugee resettlement. One thing that we know is that with I would say propaganda from what is developed as far as newspaper articles about refugees coming in, that that they just hear that, you know, these people have escaped with their lives with nothing on their backs, and, you know, we have to help them. What I'm seeing, and I'm only going by what I'm hearing them say when they're talking on a news program or in the newspaper, what they're describing is not a refugee life, it's the life of an economic migrant. They don't fit the UN definition of refugees. They're really migrants, and that's something else that we have to be concerned about.
Yeah, I just brought up this sample 3 to 5 minute script, Mary Ann.
Right.
Which, I mean, that is, for Mary Ann to put that together, that's genius. So all you gotta do is print that out when you get your 3 to 5 minutes in front of Sterling Heights or Warren. All you gotta do is read that, and then you get the ball rolling. Now you've created some thought, and other people will hear you say that too. So you don't even have to worry about it. Just print that out, fill in the names, and away you go.
Well, I'm hoping that what you'll say when you go to the council is in your own words. These are just little crib sheets to help you get started. These are for people that they've never had the experience of talking in front of a council, and they're not sure exactly what to do. And in the later part of this program today, we'll talk a little bit in more detail about a way to prepare. But these are your cheat sheets. These are just ways to help and get the ball rolling. So you want to go ahead? Okay. So this is the information we need from you. I told you this is a two-way street. The way we're organized to be nimble and operational is that we give information out to you, and we're going to guarantee that it's going to be the most up-to-date, responsible, precise information that we can obtain. So you will know by going to the website, and our webmaster Al Jarvis keeps it, you know, well up to date. You'll know that the latest information is there. You're not going to find stale information. It's going to be the latest information. You can rely on it for that reason. And you can go and get information. Okay, what we want from you is a couple of things. We want to know what you're finding out about. And this also goes along with what John had to say, that what we need is intelligence reporting from the field. We need to know if somebody is going after a rezoning variance for a mosque to go in. We need to know if there are things going on in the community, the kind of scuttlebutt you hear in the community, and not even at the council meeting, but just, you know, maybe at a corner diner. Because this is nimble, but local. Your eyes are what will be important to report back to us what's going on. And then, as we get these reports, and all you have to do to make the report is there's a contact way on the website, and you can send the message to the administrator, and we'll get it and we can follow up on it. Okay, so that's if something's happening. Now, the other thing is we want to know after something's happened that you've been involved in. Say you've gone to your city council meeting and you've talked to them, and there's going to be some kind of a response. Either they were receptive, or in some cases we've already talked to people where they haven't been receptive. Don't worry. If they're not receptive, you've just taken the first step, and you're going to take another step, and another, and another, and another. And there can be different strategies as you go along. Maybe down the road, what you're going to do is have a number of people go and help you with this assault, because that's really what it is. You have to plan strategically, and each one of you will become your own pocket of resistance, working within the larger pocket of resistance of Secure Michigan. Okay, Gary. Okay, I'm going to turn this over to Dick Manasari for a few minutes because he's going to talk about the Freedom of Information request.
Good short. Keep it short.
My reputation.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, Gary, we need to go to Freedom of Information. And there. And again, I just want to say we are very blessed. We have two wonderful websites, and Al deserves a lot of credit for keeping them up to date, and we throw a lot of things his way, and it's very well organized. I got an email. Somebody said, how did you get this website? One of the other Tea Party sent us a note about our websites. And also, Judy, thank you for the Facebook. All right, here, FOIA. So here's an example. The point is that FOIA has helped us learn what they don't want us to know. So Gary, I think we want you to go to the mini tutorial. Just click on the PDF, please. And all this is saying is there's really a boilerplate. When you create, and it's up there, you can copy and paste this, and all you have to change is the part in italics. So you have an interest in freedom of information. You always ask for records. You never ask for information. You want the records that the agency has. And you ask a question and say, please send me the records. And so, for example, it says in their quarterly meetings among key stakeholders directly involved in the coordinating or providing services to refugees as part of the refugee resettlement program. The records being sought would include invitations, minutes, and any presentation material related to the federally required stakeholder meetings. We knew that there had to be stakeholder meetings every quarter, and we wanted to know what they were. They refused to tell us. Lutheran Services specifically said, you are not entitled to that information. We asked Governor Snyder's people, they said, we cannot tell you. Officially, with the Freedom of Information request, they would have broken the law, they told us. So you can cut and paste that and just put the question that you have in the italics area. I just sent one tonight. I'll just share with you. I sent another one out tonight. We're learning things because of freedom of information. The rest of it just reminds them there could be a fee. The fee could be waived. They have 5 days to tell you they're going to respond. They can ask for an extension. But it's very structured, and I would recommend you could even do that at your local level. I think somebody here knows that it's been done in West Bloomfield. Am I right? So your local organization, so for example, we might request information about how did a mosque get approved 10 years ago in a planning cycle or 5 years ago. So there's lots of information we don't have that Freedom of Information can get us. Done.
Good job. Good.
This is the more specific about communication with your local officials. This really is going to be the key to what we're doing. And how many of you do you go to your council meetings regularly?
They're on the same night as this.
Okay. Same night as this, that's too bad. It's important to do it, and if you've never done it before, I would recommend that you go and observe maybe a meeting or two before you get involved. Also go to the website and find out what requirements they have. If you want to talk, sometimes they ask for specific, cards to be filled out and things like that. So you have to be aware of that. Not allowed to ask what?
They're not allowed to ask you to sign something that the open meetings and you have to ask the supervisor county.
Okay, we can talk about that later. But they do ask you for information, and they tell you information. They give you guidelines of what you're supposed to do. And Doreen's question about Open Meetings Act, we'll follow up on that and make sure that that's posted on our website so that if it's something that you have to quote, you've got the exact words to do it. And that's a good point. Thank you, Doreen. What I think going back to this idea, this is a consultative function that you have. You become the resource for your local government, and you become involved. You're not there as an adversary. Maybe it develops that way, but that wouldn't be your choice or our choice. The thing about dealing with the local level, the politicians there, well, probably any politician is pretty much interested in trying to keep the peace in the community as far as not having anything go too far off the rails. And local elections are very low turnout elections, and so you're talking about a very small percentage of voters. So if there's a pretty loud lobby for bringing new refugees in, somebody who's not for refugees and does not have an organized group behind them supporting them is not going to get very far in some of these councils, and we've run across that already. We're here to help you when you run into those situations and help you strategize for ways to work around that. You never have to feel as if you were alone, because there are lots of different ways that this can be done. The other important thing to remember, particularly at this point in time, this is election season, and I hope that you all want to be precinct delegates. And if you haven't already filed, it's not too late. You can actually be a write-in candidate at the last minute. And there's information at the state election website that tells you exactly how to do it, and it's not difficult. It can be done very easily. You can even go online and find out if your precincts are empty, and many of them are. You could be elected as your precinct delegate for 1 or 2 votes. So I would encourage you to think about that. I would also encourage you to get on every planning board, every commission, every appointed thing that you can get on. Because that's how you have your ear to the ground to know what's going on. That's how you know, say, if a mosque is on the way coming in, or some other event that we would be interested in. And run for elected office. Our opponents, they have a farm team that begins very early, developing from the lowliest positions in local government. And we need to think about that too, and especially when it comes to something like refugee resettlement. So just go to your meeting, have your script in mind, what you're going to say. And the other thing that I recommend that you take, and especially if you're running as a precinct delegate, this is how you can even campaign, because the people who are going to be at your city council meetings are going to be the voters who could possibly vote you in. So I would take, and either we have it on the website now or it'll be there soon, just a little information sheet that tells a few very important websites. Our website for Secure Michigan, Ann Corcoran's website, your name that you can customize, and your information. Oh, short announcement, they're taking orders if you'd like to have a midnight snack. Okay, so those are some of the things that you can do. Now, one thing I want to tell you about, and it's not so much for the city council meetings, but it is important for meetings in your community. And there could be meetings that will be set up around refugee resettlement issues. And is there anybody here who's had any experience or knows what the Delphi technique is? Okay. Well, I'm going to share that with you for people that might not have encountered it, because you may encounter it as things go forward. The Delphi technique is actually something that was developed by the Rand Corporation during the Cold War. And it's a psychological operation, basically. It's a way of running a meeting by having a facilitator at a meeting who comes off as the friendly good guy, and then the meeting is set up so that there are other people who become the bad guys. And the idea is to get the people in the audience that you're trying to influence, get them to bond with the good guy facilitator. So by skillful facilitation, and this is really a psychological maneuver, the facilitator will get all these people on their side. And the idea is coming to a consensus, but it is not a true consensus. It's all manufactured. And one way they manufacture, and you might have even been in meetings like this, and I'm not saying that if you've been in a meeting like this, it's been the Delphi technique, because it's not always that. But have you ever been at a meeting where they have people break out into smaller groups and go and sit at a table of 6 to 8 people, and you've got a whiteboard or something, and you come up with your ideas that your group puts together. And then that is coordinated with the main group, and then the facilitator reads everything off about what people have come up with. Well, in the Delphi technique, that is a way for the facilitator to maneuver things to come up with the desired outcome. This is something that will definitely be used in community meetings on refugee resettlement. This would be one of the tools that they have in their toolkit that they're very skillful at using. You have to be aware when you see it, and if you're aware, you can prevent yourself from being drawn in. And one way you can do that is to be very precise about what you say, even write down what your statements are, so that if later the facilitator tries to summarize and put something together that isn't what you said, you can say precisely what you did say and get them back on track. And you do it in a very business-like manner. You don't get angry, you just, you're very matter of fact. The other thing that you want to do if you're in that kind of a situation is don't go alone. Go with friends, go with people that can support you, and they can independently try to call the facilitator out and say, no, that's not what he said, or whatever. And the idea when you do that is don't all sit together. Sprinkle yourself around the room, and you can be effective that way. So that's the Delphi technique, something to watch for. And the other thing that I would say, and I just want to caution about this, we try to vet everything that we put on the website very carefully, but sometimes if you're getting information together, and I suggest you do this, that you put information packets together that you leave at your city council. And you can leave them with the clerk or whatever person is designated to keep the records. Leave the information after you've spoken, and when you speak, let the council know you'll be following up in the next week to bring more information or to answer questions or whatever, and then follow up, because that's your consultative role, and that's important to do too. But the one thing I want to caution about is be very careful that everything that you ever put out there is absolutely accurate. And sometimes there's some really difficult to vet articles that are, after things kind of fall out, you learn that these articles came from one of these satirical news sites. And many people have been caught up in this because they're done in such a way, and let's face it, every new day brings some new unbelievable thing that has happened. So some of these satires seem more true than not. So just be careful of that, because as soon as you lose credibility, you've really, you're really sunk, and you have to be very careful never to let it happen. Another way you can lose credibility, and let me just explain that from something that's in the news right now. We had a Skype with somebody from Twin Falls, Idaho, and Twin Falls is very much in the news right now because there was a story that really, it happened in June, early in June, but the story just really came out over the weekend about an allegation that 3 juvenile Syrian refugee boys had raped a 4-year-old girl. Well, as the story developed, it didn't turn out to be exactly that. It looks like there definitely was a sexual assault, and it's being investigated. The problem was that the fact that the information that was out there and was relied upon by people that went to the meetings in Twin Falls ended up being wrong, so they were discredited. They were discredited for being inaccurate on some of the facets of the story, but not on the basic story. And they would have been better off if they had only spoken about things that they could actually know. And there were things that they could actually know, because when our friend Leo Holman, who has interviewed people from this group and has done some of the best investigative reporting on refugee resettlement, when he got into the story, he actually did start interviewing people to find out what happened. And you know, then when you see what he wrote, it's very accurate. And all I'm pointing out to you is know your sources. If it's Leo Holman, I know he's done his homework. And don't be caught in that kind of a trap, just be careful. So those are the main things about the local issue. The next thing we're going to talk about is another Dick Manasari area, and that is in the dealing with resolutions.
Okay. Gary, can we go to the website, please? So, resolutions are things that after you've had your conversation, whether it's a first conversation with the city council, maybe you meet with people, maybe somebody like Gary comes out and gives a presentation with all kind of detailed numbers. Eventually, you're trying to get people to make a decision and take a position. And so we have a section in the toolkit right on resolutions. And if we go to tool, I believe it's number 6 now. Actually, let's flip at 5 just for a quick session. Question is, will your county, 5? Will your county follow the lead of the Republican Party in the County of Oakland and pass a resolution asking for sensibility to be applied to refugee resettlement, namely a halt, a temporary halt? By the way, Phil, I think you're in the room. You may have introduced this resolution at the county meeting. Thank you. So here's an activist right amongst us. And if you just click on that, Gary, you'll see it's a resolution. It was put together. It's based on information. It has a bunch of whereases. That's how you know it's a resolution. And they voted and they passed it in Oakland County, which is a big deal because Oakland County is now the surge point for the Syrian refugees. Oakland and then Macomb. So thank you for that. Gary, let's go back to tool number 6 so I can make my time limit. And if you see number 6, it's just another resolution. So this is a standard resolution that we've developed with some expertise. I want to give credit to some people out there in Livingston County that came up with the idea. This is a standard resolution we would like for people to consider. It gets modified. Gary, if you click on the resolution for Lenawee County. So we modified it for Lenawee County. I just want to show you. So if you have done your homework with the city council, this is not what you do first. This is maybe step 7. Would a county council ever decide to protect its people in their county or their city by adopting a resolution? So we will modify this resolution specifically for you. We did the presentation in Lenawee County. They asked for a resolution and they're working with their county council. It has not been approved. The point I want to make is that it's pretty well done. I didn't, other people did it. It's got in it little endnotes. If you go down, and so for every point, for every whereas, there's a very specific, credible reference, something in a senatorial hearing, something in the New York Times, a very substantive research.